The story you are about to hear was carefully written with a distinctive science fiction narrative, moving beyond classic patterns. A different kind of journey now begins. The medical wing of Colony Theta 7 smelled faintly of antiseptic and recycled air, a combination Jasper had come to associate with bad news and worse needles. He lay on the examination platform staring at the ceiling panels, which displayed a looping image of a calm blue sky that no longer existed on this side of human expansion. He suspected the sky was meant to be soothing. It wasn't working. So, Jasper said, watching a small mechanical arm hover closer to his exposed forearm, on a scale from mild inconvenience to you're about to ruin my week, how mandatory is this health screening? Across from him stood Dr. Seleth, the Valthori physician assigned to the colony. She looked almost human at first glance. Same upright posture, same symmetrical features, same calm eyes. But the illusion broke the moment you noticed her ears. They extended longer than a human's, elegant and tapered, angling slightly backward as if tuned to sounds no one else could hear. She wore a pale diagnostic coat woven with faintly glowing threads that shifted color as her instrument synced. Mandatory, Seelith replied without looking up, and statistically beneficial. Fantastic, I love statistics. They're very comforting, right up until they aren't. The mechanical arm extended a thin injector. Jasper barely flinched. After 3 years on a frontier colony, pain had become a familiar acquaintance. What unsettled him was Selith's silence afterward. The injector withdrew, the vials sealed, and her attention shifted to the hollow display blooming above her wrist. She frowned. Jasper noticed immediately. Selith did not frown often. She had the kind of professional composure that suggested her emotional range had been carefully audited and approved by some interstellar committee. Let me guess, Jasper said. I'm deficient in something obscure. Space vitamin Q. I knew I should have eaten more algae paste. Selith didn't respond. Her fingers moved through layers of data, pulling up genetic overlays, cross-referencing markers. Her ears twitched once sharply. That's new, she murmured. Jasper sat up a little. New good or new, lock the doors. The scanner may be miscalibrated, she said, though her tone lacked conviction. She recalibrated it anyway, ran the analysis again, then again, each time slower, more deliberate. Jasper tried to read the display upside down and failed. You're doing that thing where you don't explain what's happening and my imagination fills in the worst possible scenarios. This should not be possible, Selith said. Jasper blinked. You say that like it happens to you a lot. She finally looked at him. Her expression was not fear, but something closer to disbelief. Your genetic markers contain sequences exclusive to Valthori royal lineage. There was a pause, a long one. Jasper laughed, a short burst that echoed awkwardly in the sterile room. Okay, that's a good one. Did the scanner pick up my sense of humor too? Selith did not smile. Jasper stopped laughing. You're serious? Yes. Right. Well, that's impressive. Considering I'm human, my parents were human, and as far as I know, no one in my family has ever met a Valthori royal, let alone married one in secret. Selith turned the display so he could see. The data didn't mean much to him, but the highlighted segments were unmistakably labeled. Royal genetic seals, inheritance chains, probability estimates so low they might as well have been theoretical jokes. This is not contamination, Selith said, nor mutation. These markers are inherited. Jasper leaned back onto the platform. So either your entire medical system is wrong, or someone in my family tree made some very interesting life choices. Selith's ears angled back again, a subtle sign of tension. There are no recorded instances of interbreeding between Valthori royalty and humans. Recorded being the key word, Jasper muttered. She closed the display with a sharp gesture. This information is now restricted. That sounds ominous. It is procedural. Jasper swung his legs off the platform. Am I under arrest? No. Quarantined? No. Executed quietly in my sleep? Selith hesitated just a fraction of a second too long. I'm kidding, Jasper said quickly. Mostly. She exhaled, something like a sigh. You may return to your quarters. This screening will be Reviewed. Reviewed by who? By individuals who will not appreciate humor. Great. I'll try to work on my serious face. As Jasper left the medical wing, he noticed two things he hadn't seen on the way in. A security officer stationed near the exit, and a delay, barely half a second, before the door recognized his clearance. It slid open anyway, but the hesitation lingered. By the time he reached the corridor, his wrist console chimed with a notification he wasn't authorized to read, flagged far above his civilian clearance. Jasper stared at it, then snorted softly. "I just wanted a clean bill of health," he said to no one. Somewhere far beyond the colony's orbit, systems older than human spaceflight had already begun to adjust. And for the first time in 40 years, a royal name long buried in silence stirred again, tethered not to a throne, but to a human colonist who still thought this had to be some kind of mistake. Jasper discovered that paranoia was surprisingly easy to develop when doors hesitated before opening. It started subtly. His quarters recognized him a second slower than usual, the wall panel flickering as if reconsidering his existence. The nutrient dispenser asked him to confirm his identity twice before releasing something that claimed to be soup. Even the colony's central corridor displays seemed to linger on him a moment longer, their abstract starfield animations stuttering as he passed. "This is fine," Jasper muttered to himself, carrying the bowl back to his table. "Totally normal. Probably just a software update that hates me personally." He tried to eat. The soup tasted like warm regret. By the time he gave up and pushed the bowl away, his wrist console chimed again. This time the message was readable, though maddeningly vague. "Report to medical wing. Non-urgent follow-up." "Non-urgent," Jasper repeated. "That's comforting. That's what people say right before they tell you something that ruins your sense of self." The walk back to medical felt longer than usual. The corridors too quiet, the background hum of the station just loud enough to make silence feel intentional. When he arrived, Dr. Seleth was already waiting, her posture composed, her expression unreadable in that precise Valthori way that made humans feel like emotional amateurs. "You're early," she said. "I didn't want to give the impression I was running from my destiny," Jasper replied, "or from needles." "There will be no needles today. That's what they always say." She gestured for him to sit, then activated a privacy field. The room dimmed slightly as sound dampeners engaged, isolating them from the rest of the wing. Jasper raised an eyebrow. "So," he said, "either this is confidential or you're about to tell me something incredibly awkward." Seleth folded her hands. "I have reviewed your results extensively." "That sounds thorough. Did you enjoy my DNA? I hear it's very exclusive." "Your humor is a defense mechanism," she said calmly. "Yeah, well, reality is attacking first." She didn't argue. Instead, she brought up a three-dimensional projection. Gene strands interlaced with unfamiliar symbols, branching into timelines that stretch backward across decades. "These markers," she said, indicating a glowing sequence, "belong to the Valthori High Line. Not merely noble, royal." Jasper leaned forward despite himself. "You already said that. I was hoping the follow-up involved the words error or apology." "There is no error," he sighed. "Okay, hypothetically, and I want to stress hypothetically, how would a human end up with royal Valthori DNA?" Seleth hesitated just long enough to be noticeable. "There is only one plausible explanation." "Of course there is." 40 years ago," she said, "Princess Alara disappeared." Jasper blinked. "Just disappeared?" "She was presumed dead. Her expedition vessel was found damaged near the outer edges of human-controlled space. No body was recovered." "That's tragic," Jasper said, then paused. "Wait, human space?" "Yes." The words seemed to hang between them, heavy with implication. "So," Jasper said slowly, "you're telling me that somewhere in my family tree is a missing alien princess who ran off, faked her death, and, what, settled down?" Seleth's ears angled slightly, a gesture Jasper was beginning to recognize as discomfort. "The theory is unproven, but the DNA is." "Yes." Jasper leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. "My mother used to say our family history was complicated. Turns out she was underselling it." Seleth watched him closely, as if expecting denial, anger, panic. What she got was a tired laugh. I don't even like politics, Jasper said. I can barely manage colony meetings without wanting to hide under a table. This is not about preference, Saleth said. Your existence has implications. Everything does if you overthink it. Before she could respond, the room's lighting shifted subtly, a silent alert. Seleth's eyes flicked to the wall panel. They're watching already, aren't they? Jasper asked. Yes. Do they watch everyone this closely, or am I special? You are notable. That's one way to put it. She deactivated the projection. For now, you are to continue your duties as normal. Jasper snorted. Right. Normal. I'll just go back to recalibrating soil processors while being a walking constitutional crisis. Discretion is advised. I'm very discreet, he said. I only tell life-altering secrets to people who look trustworthy and have long ears. For the first time, Seleth's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close enough to feel like a victory. As Jasper left the medical wing again, the security presence was unmistakable now. Guards didn't stop him, didn't speak, but their attention followed his movement with professional interest. In the corridor, Jasper slowed his pace, letting out a quiet breath. Okay, he murmured. Deep breath. You're still you. You still hate algae soup. You still don't want a throne. The station lights flickered once, then stabilized. Far beyond Colony Theta 7, in a palace that had not spoken Alara's name aloud in decades, a sealed archive was accessed for the first time since its creation. And a queen surrounded by silence and duty stared at a familiar genetic signature and felt something dangerously close to shock. Jasper's summons arrived without ceremony, which somehow made it worse. The message appeared on his wrist console while he was elbow-deep in a malfunctioning soil processor, coated in synthetic nutrients and quietly arguing with a diagnostic drone that refused to acknowledge gravity as a valid concern. The console chimed once, politely, as if it weren't about to derail his life further. Report to Central Transit Hub. Immediate departure authorized. That was it. No explanation. No comforting, non-urgent this time. Jasper stared at the message, then at the drone hovering smugly in front of him. I'm going to guess, he said, wiping his hands on his jumpsuit, that this is not about my excellent performance review. The drone beeped, entirely unhelpful. The transit hub was sealed off when he arrived, not locked, sealed with the kind of quiet authority that suggested someone very important disliked improvisation. A Valthori escort waited near the vessel, tall, armored, ears angled forward in alert symmetry. Jasper clocked the ship immediately. It was not a colony transport. It was sleek, black-silver, and far too elegant to belong anywhere near agricultural equipment. Oh no, Jasper muttered. That's a government ship. The escort inclined his head. You will board? Right now? Yes. Any chance you could tell me where we're going, or should I be surprised like it's a birthday party? The escort did not blink. Worth a try, Jasper said, stepping onto the ramp. The journey was smooth in the way only terrifyingly advanced technology could manage. No turbulence, no sensation of speed, just the quiet hum of something bending space politely out of the way. Jasper sat alone in the passenger compartment, strapped in more out of habit than necessity, watching stars stretch and collapse outside the viewport. So, he said aloud, because silence was starting to feel judgmental. Royal blood, missing princess, secret genetics. If this ends with me being asked to swear loyalty, I'm going to disappoint a lot of people. The ship did not respond. They arrived without fanfare. One moment there was nothing but dark, and the next the palace filled the viewport, vast, luminous, suspended above a planet wrapped in pale atmospheric rings. Jasper felt his mouth go dry. Okay, he whispered. That's excessive. The landing platform was immaculate, guarded, and very clearly not designed for human colonists in worn jumpsuits. Jasper became acutely aware of the dirt under his nails and the faint smell of soil processors still clinging to him. He was escorted through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate without raising their voices, high arches, softly glowing walls etched with flowing script. the air itself feeling heavier, as if it carried expectation along with oxygen. At last, they stopped before a pair of doors that did not open immediately. Jasper waited. "I'm guessing I'm supposed to feel small right now." The doors parted. The chamber beyond was vast but restrained, its grandeur controlled rather than ostentatious. At its center stood Queen Vaylin. She looked remarkably like Saleth, Jasper noted distantly, in the way that suggested shared ancestry rather than coincidence. Human in shape, composed in posture, but unmistakably Valthori, with long ears held high and eyes sharp enough to cut through pretense. Her expression was cool, assessing, and utterly devoid of welcome. Jasper swallowed. "Hi." The word echoed far more than it deserved to. "You are Jasper Hale," Valen said. "I am," he replied. "Unless this is the part where you tell me that's no longer accurate." She studied him in silence. Jasper resisted the urge to fill it. "You carry the genetic signature of my bloodline," she said at last. "So I've been told. I was hoping that was a prank." "It is not." "Figures." Valen circled him slowly, her gaze clinical, searching for something Jasper wasn't sure he possessed. He turned slightly to keep her in view, feeling like an exhibit that hadn't agreed to be displayed. "You do not look like royalty," she said. "Thank you," Jasper replied. "I've worked very hard on that." Her eyes flicked to him, just briefly. "You show no reverence." "I show survival instincts," he said. "They manifest as sarcasm under pressure." She stopped in front of him. "You understand the danger of your existence?" "Conceptually," Jasper said. "Emotionally, I'm still catching up." "You represent a fracture in our laws." "I'd like to point out I didn't ask to. The purity statutes were written without consulting my grandparents." "Yes, I know." Valen's jaw tightened. "You will not make light of this." Jasper met her gaze. "If I don't, I panic. And panicking in a palace feels like a bad idea." For a moment he thought she might dismiss him outright. Instead, she exhaled slowly. "My sister disappeared 40 years ago," she said. "Her name was Alara." "I've heard," Jasper said more softly. "She was unconventional." Jasper almost smiled. "Sounds familiar." Valen looked away just for a second. When she faced him again, the calculation had returned. "You will remain here under protection." "Protection from who?" She did not answer immediately. "Right," Jasper said. "That's always reassuring." "You will not speak publicly. I don't even speak privately. You will not attempt to leave." "I really don't like being told that." Valen stepped closer, her voice lowering. "You are not a guest. You are a variable." Jasper nodded slowly. "Then you should know something about me. And that is, I don't like thrones. I don't want power. And if this turns into a succession issue, I will actively run in the opposite direction." The silence that followed was not hostile. It was curious. "Interesting," Valen said. "That's what everyone says right before things get complicated." As guards moved to escort him out, Jasper glanced back once. The queen was still watching him, not as a ruler, but as someone confronting a past she had buried too deeply to remain undisturbed. Jasper sighed quietly. "Yep," he murmured. "Definitely not a prank." Jasper learned very quickly that palace protection felt a lot like polite imprisonment. His assigned quarters were spacious, immaculately clean, and featured a panoramic view of the planet's upper atmosphere, soft clouds drifting beneath translucent rings. It was the kind of place people dreamed of visiting. It was also the kind of place where every wall probably listened. "Well," Jasper said to the empty room, dropping onto the edge of the bed, "at least if I'm going to be assassinated, I'll have a nice view." The first attempt came less than 12 hours later. It was subtle enough that he almost missed it. Jasper had just figured out how to convince the nutrient dispenser to produce something resembling actual coffee when the air behind him shifted. Not a sound, more like a pressure change, a whisper of displacement that made the hairs on his arms rise. He turned instinctively, sloshing hot liquid everywhere. The drone hovering near the ceiling did not belong there. "Hey," Jasper said cautiously, holding his mug like a weapon. "You're not my regular appliance." The drone's surface rippled, shedding its maintenance disguise. A weapon unfolded with mechanical grace, energy coils humming to life. Jasper stared at it. Of course! The blast never fired. A palace defense field snapped into place, slamming the drone into the wall hard enough to leave a scorch mark shaped like bad intentions. Guards poured in seconds later, weapons raised, ears angled sharply forward. Jasper looked down at the coffee soaking his sleeve. I literally just made that. After that, security stopped pretending. He was escorted everywhere, his movements choreographed with unnerving efficiency. Valen did not come to see him immediately, which Jasper interpreted as either strategic restraint or extreme irritation. Possibly both. The second attempt was louder. Jasper was crossing a transit bridge overlooking the lower city when the lights flickered and the gravity field hiccuped. For half a second, everything went weightless. Jasper flailed. Oh, no, no, no! He collided with a guard, the two of them spinning gracelessly as an explosion tore through the far end of the bridge. Emergency fields snapped on, sealing the breach just before atmosphere could escape. They landed in a heap. Jasper blinked. Did I just almost die again? Yes, the guard said flatly. Is that normal here? No. Good, Jasper said. I'd hate to think this was part of the tour. The would-be assassin was never identified publicly, which only made Jasper more popular among people who disliked uncertainty. He noticed it in the way courtiers avoided his gaze, in the way some stared too long, calculating. By the third day, Queen Valen summoned him again. This time, there was no circling, no pretense. They are escalating, she said, standing at the chamber's center, hands clasped behind her back. Someone wants you removed before the council convenes. Jasper leaned against a pillar that probably had historical significance. I'm flattered. This is not amusing. I know. That's why I'm trying to make it tolerable. She studied him, irritation and something else warring behind her eyes. You survived 2 attempts. Mostly by accident. That is not insignificant. Neither is the fact that someone keeps trying to kill me. Valen exhaled slowly. You are no longer a passive factor in this. Was I ever? No. She activated a holo display, projections filling the space, with shifting schematics and data streams. There are factions within the court who view you as contamination. Others see you as leverage. And you? Jasper asked. Her pause was brief but real. I see you as a problem I cannot ignore. Wow, Jasper said. I feel seen. Despite herself, her gaze sharpened, with something dangerously close to amusement. Your refusal to seek advantage is disruptive. I've been told that before, usually right before someone asks me to stop talking. You challenge assumptions without intent. That's just how I'm built. Valen dismissed the display. You will remain under my direct protection. Jasper raised an eyebrow. That sounds reassuring in a stand behind me during a coup sort of way. It means any further attempts will be treated as direct challenges to the throne. That's a lot of pressure for a guy who fixes soil processors. Get used to it. They stood in silence for a moment, the tension less sharp now, more shared. You miss her, Jasper said quietly. Valen's eyes flicked to him. Who? Your sister. The words settled between them like a fragile artifact. Yes, she said at last. And I buried that feeling because it was inconvenient. Jasper nodded. Family has a habit of being that way. Another alert chimed. Internal, discreet. Valen glanced at it, her jaw tightening. Another attempt? Jasper asked. A warning, she said. Someone wants us to know they are not finished. Jasper sighed. I was really hoping this would peak early. As guards escorted him back, Jasper couldn't shake the sense that something had shifted. Not safety, nothing so optimistic, but alignment. Valen no longer looked at him like a variable alone. She looked at him like an ally she hadn't chosen. And somewhere in the palace's lower systems, a maintenance drone lay broken against a wall, its failure logged under a single understated designation. Unacceptable risk. The archive level did not feel like a place meant for truth. Jasper noticed it immediately. The way the air was cooler, the lighting dimmer, the walls less decorative and more deliberate. This was not a space designed to impress visitors. It was designed to make people forget what they were looking for. So, Jasper said softly as the lift doors closed behind them, This is where you keep the secrets you don't want overthrowing governments. Valen did not look at him. This is where we keep what cannot be destroyed. That's somehow worse. They walked side by side through corridors lined with sealed data vaults, each marked only by glyphs Jasper couldn't read. Security fields hummed faintly, layered over one another like stubborn paranoia. Seleth followed a step behind them, her expression focused, her long ears angled in concentration as she interfaced silently with the archive systems. I should point out, Jasper said, that I have no training in royal investigations. My qualifications include basic engineering and an unhealthy relationship with malfunctioning equipment. You are uniquely qualified, Seleth replied without turning. You are alive. Ah, Jasper said, the rarest credential. They stopped before a vault that looked no different from the others, except for one detail. It was old, older than the rest. The access panel bore the faint scarring of manual overrides, a relic from an era before everything trusted itself to automation. This file predates my reign, Valen said. It was sealed by my mother. And never opened again, Seleth added. Jasper crossed his arms. No pressure. The vault opened with a low, resonant tone, as if reluctant to wake. Inside, holographic records flickered to life. Mission logs, fragmented star maps, sensor readings degraded by time and deliberate corruption. Princess Alara appeared first as a silhouette, then as a recorded image. Jasper inhaled sharply before he could stop himself. She looked human, mostly. Same long ears as Seleth and Valen, same sharp grace to her features, but there was warmth in her expression that felt immediately familiar. She smiled at the recording, eyes bright, posture relaxed in a way Jasper had never seen in the palace. Well, Jasper murmured, that explains the family resemblance. Valen said nothing. Her gaze was fixed, unblinking. The log played. Ilara spoke of exploration, of curiosity, of frustration with protocol. She joked about secrecy, about how absurd it was that curiosity could be considered dangerous. Then the tone shifted. New entries appeared. Blurred timestamps, corrupted audio, human voices. Jasper leaned closer. Is that English? Yes, Seleth said quietly. Primitive dialect, but unmistakable. The logs showed a human research vessel, battered but functional. Alara's ship drifting nearby. Contact, assistance, conversations that started cautious and became personal. Jasper winced. Oh, wow. She really went all in. Ilara laughed in the recording, standing beside a human man whose face was partially obscured by interference. They argued gently about food, about gravity preferences, about whether the universe had a sense of humor. She loved him, Valen said, her voice barely audible. Seleth nodded. The genetic data supports long-term bonding. Jasper scratched his jaw. My family gatherings suddenly make a lot more sense. The final log was recorded in haste. Alara spoke directly to the archive, her tone steady but sad. She explained her choice. Exile over execution. Silence over war. She would not return, not if it meant her child would be hunted as an abomination or a weapon. I will disappear, Alara said in the flickering projection. Let history believe I am dead. Let my sister rule without this burden. But if this record is ever found, let it be known that I chose love over law. The log ended. Silence filled the vault, thick and heavy. Valen closed her eyes. Jasper shifted uncomfortably. She sounds stubborn. She was, Valen said, infuriatingly so. And brave, Jasper added. Valen looked at him. Do not mistake recklessness for virtue. Fair, Jasper said, but don't mistake rules for morality either. She studied him for a long moment, then turned away. So, Jasper said gently, what now? Now, Valen replied, the truth exists, and that is dangerous. Seleth deactivated the display. The council will demand action. Some will want you legitimized. Others will want you erased. Jasper grimaced. I really don't like those being the only options. Neither did Alara, Valen said. They left the vault together, the doors sealing behind them with a finality Jasper felt in his bones. As they walked, he glanced at Valine. For what it's worth, she seemed happy. Valine did not respond immediately. When she did, her voice was controlled, but softer. That, she said, is what terrifies me most. Jasper nodded. Yeah, happiness tends to cause trouble. For the first time since arriving at the palace, Jasper felt something settle. Not safety, not certainty, but understanding. He wasn't just a political anomaly. He was proof that Alara had lived, chosen, and mattered. And that made him far more dangerous than any throne ever could. The council chamber was designed to amplify authority. Jasper felt it the moment he stepped inside. The way the floor subtly vibrated beneath his boots, the way the curved walls carried sound without echo, forcing every word to land exactly where it was meant to. Rows of counselors sat in elevated tiers, long ears adorned with insignia that marked lineage, faction, or ideology. Some looked at Jasper with open hostility, others with hunger, a few with something that resembled curiosity sharpened into strategy. This room hates me already, Jasper murmured to Valen as they walked to the center. It hates uncertainty, she replied. You are merely efficient at provoking it. He smiled faintly. I have a talent. The proceedings began without ceremony. Data projections filled the air. Genetic maps, lineage probabilities, legal frameworks that bent themselves into knots trying to pretend Jasper didn't exist. Words like contamination and precedent drifted through the chamber with academic cruelty. One counselor leaned forward, ears rigid. The hybrid must be removed. Quietly, permanently. Jasper raised a hand. I'd like to formally object to that phrasing. Several heads turned. Valen shot him a warning glance that said, now is not the time. Jasper lowered his hand obediently, then whispered, worth a try. Another counselor spoke, voice smooth. Alternatively, he could be claimed, recognized, a symbol of unity. A symbol doesn't get to choose, Jasper muttered. The debate spiraled, logic colliding with fear, tradition strangling pragmatism. Jasper felt oddly detached, like he was watching a simulation where his own survival was a variable someone else kept recalculating. Then Valen stood. The chamber quieted instantly. My sister did not die, she said. The words cut through the air like a blade. Gasps rippled. Seleth activated the archive feed, Ilara's image appearing once more, her voice filling the chamber with warmth that felt almost defiant. The truth unfolded without embellishment. Love, exile, choice. When the projection ended, silence followed. Heavy, stunned, fragile. Jasper exhaled slowly. She really didn't do things halfway. A few counselors stared at him, offended. Others looked shaken. The purity statutes, Valen continued, were written to prevent chaos, but they have instead created it. Jasper Hale is not a threat to this throne. He is royal blood, one counselor snapped. Jasper straightened. No, I'm a mechanic's grandson who fixes broken systems. If I wanted power, I'd be doing a much better job of looking ambitious. A murmur spread. Unexpected laughter followed. Quiet, reluctant, but real. I do not claim succession, Jasper said louder now. I don't want it. I won't take it. If your laws can't handle that, then maybe the problem isn't me. The chamber erupted. That was when the attack came. Lights failed. Gravity stuttered. Energy readings spiked wildly as a pulse weapon detonated near the upper tier. Panic broke discipline. Guards moved too slowly. Jasper reacted without thinking. He grabbed Valen's arm and pulled her down as a blast scorched the space where she'd been standing. The shockwave sent them sliding across the floor, alarms screaming as emergency shields slammed into place. They lay there for a heartbeat, stunned. Well, Jasper said breathlessly, this meeting escalated. Valen stared at him, then gave a sharp, incredulous laugh. You saved my life. Please don't make it a habit, he said. I'm terrible under pressure. Security overwhelmed the chamber, neutralizing the attacker, a council-aligned extremist who decided resolution was less efficient than annihilation. Afterward, as the palace went into lockdown, Valen stood before the council again, her composure restored, her voice iron. Any further attempts on his life, she said, will be treated as treason. No one argued. Later, in a quiet corridor far from politics and bloodlines, Jasper leaned against a wall, shaking slightly now that adrenaline had lost interest. I think, he said, that's the most influential thing I've ever done while lying on a floor. Valen looked at him for a long moment. You could have run. Yeah, Jasper said, but then I'd have to live with that. She nodded once. You are not royal in title. Good. But you are family, she said quietly. Jasper blinked. Careful. That word comes with expectations. Then we will redefine them, Valen replied. For the first time since his blood had betrayed him, Jasper felt something close to choice returning. Not safety, not power, but agency. And for a universe built on inherited destiny, that was the most radical thing of all. The palace felt different after the council chamber burned its secrets into the open. Not quieter. If anything, the systems hummed louder, security grids overlapping like nervous thoughts. But lighter, as if something long suppressed had finally been allowed to breathe. Jasper noticed it in small ways. Guards nodded instead of watching him like a malfunctioning device. Courtiers whispered less urgently, and doors no longer hesitated when he approached, as though the palace itself had stopped arguing with his existence. He stood on a balcony overlooking the planet's rings, hands resting on a railing that had probably witnessed centuries of very serious decisions. The light from the star filtered through the rings, scattering into soft bands of color. Well, Jasper said to the universe, this is definitely not how I imagined my week going. Behind him, footsteps approached, unhurried, deliberate. Valen stopped at his side, her posture less rigid than before, her long ears relaxed instead of sharply angled toward danger. The council has adjourned indefinitely, she said. The purity statutes are suspended pending reform. Jasper blinked. You're telling me I survived assassination attempts, a royal investigation, and a public political meltdown, and the end result is paperwork? Valen's mouth curved faintly. The most dangerous weapon of all, he snorted. Figures. For a moment, they simply watched the rings drift. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was shared. They will stop hunting you, Valen said at last. Not out of kindness, out of fear. I'll take fear, Jasper replied. Fear is predictable. You will be formally recognized, she continued, not as an heir, not as a claimant, as kin. Jasper turned to her. And what does that mean exactly? It means your blood will no longer be denied, Valen said, and your choices will be your own. He considered that. So I don't get a crown. No. Or a title. No. Or ceremonial robes that itch. Absolutely not, Jasper smiled. Perfect. They moved inside toward a chamber Jasper hadn't seen before. It was smaller than the throne room, warmer, lined with living crystal that shifted color in response to movement. At its center stood a single projection pillar. This was my sister's, Valen said quietly. Seleth was already there, hands folded, her expression calm but attentive. She activated the pillar, and Alara's image appeared, not as a mission log this time, but as a restored composite, clearer than before. Alara smiled. Jasper felt it in his chest, sharp and unexpected. We will not rewrite her choice, Valen said. We will acknowledge it. The memorial was simple. No grand declarations, no political spin, just truth, recorded and released into the official archives. Princess Alara. Explorer, sister, mother, exile by choice. When it was done, Jasper cleared his throat. She would have hated anything more dramatic. Valen nodded. She hated being told what she should be. Definitely a family trait, Jasper said. Days passed. The palace settled into a new equilibrium, one that creaked and complained but held. Jasper attended exactly one advisory meeting before politely excusing himself forever. I am not built for this, he told Valine afterward. Too many chairs, too many opinions. She accepted it without argument. Arrangements were made, transport authorized, protection assigned, discreet this time. Jasper packed his few belongings, staring at the room that had nearly become his tomb and instead became a turning point. On the day of his departure, Seleth walked with him to the landing platform. "You will be monitored," she said. "Comforting. For your safety, I'll try not to trigger any more constitutional crises." She tilted her head. "You are remarkably calm." Jasper shrugged. "Turns out knowing who you are makes things simpler, even when it complicates everything else." Valen waited at the ship. No guards flanked her. No court watched. "You can return," she said, "if you choose." Jasper smiled gently. "I think I need to live my life where I started it. Fix broken things that don't involve interstellar law." She inclined her head. That was always Alara's argument. He hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged her. She froze, then, awkwardly, returned it. "Family's weird," Jasper said into her shoulder. "Yes," Valen replied softly, "but it endures." The ship lifted smoothly, the palace shrinking into light and geometry as space folded open. Jasper leaned back in his seat, watching the stars stretch, feeling something he hadn't felt since before the blood test. Peace. Back on Colony Theta 7, the soil processor was still broken. The soup was still terrible. Life resumed with stubborn familiarity. But sometimes when Jasper looked up at the sky, he felt the weight of history, not as a burden, but as a connection. Not a throne, a choice. And that, he realized, was the rarest inheritance of all.